Having a positive shin angle just means that it's kind of angled in the direction you're going to start to go in that sequence. So what we have to understand too is it's less important that it's deep, meaning that you'll have kids that can get to a 30-degree shin angle between the ground and their shin, but they're not strong. It's not a powerful or explosive movement. They still get full knee extension, even if it's right here and they end up rising up. It doesn't matter the depth of your shin angle. What's important is the spine matching the shin at the moment we apply force and then immediately after, because that's what lines up with physics. That's where we get and follow Newton's third law. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Because when I'm moving through that motion, when I'm here, as you see the athlete push into this back leg, and when they push, you should see the hips move forward a little. What we should have, and let's just keep this looking here. Most athletes will start already with the spine matching that shin. Okay, so ignore the right leg right here. We're just kind of trying to isolate what's happening through the back. And so when this happens, at the moment I push and then immediately after, I'm in alignment. Now, as I move through that motion and this starts to rise, I should see, if we're looking at this side, the moment we see the deepest crease in the shoe, when we see the shoe start to crease, when they're applying force here, most athletes that I'm seeing on video from, okay, how do I help with this? How can I get to this? How can I get to the hips? And then in the video, very similar, we get to this shin angle in the crease, but the torso's up here. And so they're not matching. So you're not going to gain access to anything extra from this leg if the spine and the shin don't match. Because now you have two energies. You have a torso and a head that is heavy. Heavy, heavy, heavy. And it also doesn't provide any force on its own. It doesn't. You can't, your head's not going to hit the ground and push anything up. And so what we have to understand is that if you want to get more out of that athlete, you have to have good positions first. And that's in the lower leg sequencing video, and then the joint orientation lesson as well, the longer lesson. If I don't orient my joints from that drive leg to still be here and matching at this moment, once you see that deep crease, then as we start to rise, the reason we rise and this knee stays at the same height this way, the reason that happens is because the pelvis is starting to work horizontal. My spine is attached to my pelvis, my femur is attached to my pelvis and hip. So if my pelvis moves this way, the knee has to stay down because the socket, the ball and socket joint, as the hip moves through, that socket is moving through. And then the same thing, my spine is naturally going to come up to posture because it's attached to a pelvis that started at a forward tilted angle. And then as we attack the ground and then the hips drive, the pelvis starts to level out. So what does that mean the spine's going to do? The spine and the pelvis are closely tied and associated. So that's why we talk about triangles so much. We've got to keep this triangle. So as we drive into the ground and then the hips start to take shape, if we keep that triangle, notice, like I said, the hips have moved through and the spine automatically comes up. If that doesn't happen in the first place, and like I said, watch the importance of matching spine and shin angle video. If that doesn't happen in the first place, don't ask the athlete or don't ask yourself, how can you get more out of that athlete? You're not. They're not in position to get more out of that. They can push harder, yeah. They're still going to go in the same place. They're still going to go to the same place because you're not helping them understand how to direct energy just yet. And that's what we have to understand. Everything in the first 20 videos in the academy is to help understand the concept of how we can tie physics to our pitching motion so that you as a coach can be as creative as you want when it comes to drill design, when it comes to, okay, what works for this kid? Okay, we can do whatever we want. All drills can be successful if they're implemented in the right way. And the first thing for that is, does it match and line up with what our first three laws of motion are? And are we thinking about solely that first in regards to anatomical position and how they're exploding off the rubber? So we've got to have that happen first. From a drill perspective, and the reason I don't talk about drills as much with coaches when it comes to how can I help with this is because there's not a drill. It can be any drill implemented with the concept that you want. That's why if I do a lunge, I can do a lunge 8 different ways to elicit 8 different feels and understandings for an athlete, because we know anatomy, because we understand physics and laws of motion. So when we're looking at her from that perspective, yeah, she's got good shin angle. She still ain't doing a dang thing with that back leg. All she does is just lift it up and pull it through. Doesn't matter that the knees are bent. Doesn't matter that the shin angle is great. Is she working from that position? No. Is her spine matching back shin, front shin as we apply force and then immediately after? No. So if those things aren't happening, you can't expect anything else yet. And it's not fair to do that to her or to any of our athletes, because they're not in position to do so. It's just going to frustrate them, and it's just going to frustrate you. So I would watch the importance of matching spine and shin angle, and things, just work on projection first. The stance and projection webinar. You don't have to have a pulsar. You can use a pill bottle, any of those things. We have to help kids understand that they can completely control where their energy is directed. Science gives us that ability. It does. It does. And we want to always get back to that.